The rain fell in sheets, a cold, unrelenting torrent that mirrored the storm raging inside her. She stood on the edge of the bridge, her fingers gripping the rusted railing so tightly her knuckles turned white. The city lights below blurred through the downpour, distant and indifferent, like the world itself had turned its back on her. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each one a battle against the weight pressing down on her chest. Betrayal, failure, despair. They coiled around her like serpents, their whispers venomous and unyielding. You're not enough. You never were. You never will be. The words echoed in her mind, a cruel chorus that had followed her for years, growing louder with every setback, every heartbreak, every dream that crumbled to dust. She had fought so hard, giving so much, and for what? To stand here, alone, broken and utterly defeated? The wind howled, tearing at her soaked clothes, as if the universe itself was urging her to let go. And for a moment she almost did. Her grip loosened, her body swayed forward, and the abyss below seemed to call her name. But then, like a spark in the darkness, a single thought cut through the chaos. This is not the end. It was quiet at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew louder, fiercer, until it drowned out everything else. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Her hands tightened on the railing again, her body trembling not from the cold, but from the fire suddenly burning in her chest. She stepped back, her boots splashing in the puddles, and turned away from the edge. The rain still fell, the wind still howled, but something had shifted. She didn't know what lay ahead, didn't know how she would rise from the ashes of everything she had lost, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was not done. Not yet. The world had tried to break her, tried to bury her, but it had failed. And as she walked away from the bridge, her head held high despite the storm, she made a silent vow. If they wanted to fight, they were about to get. They tried to ruin you. They whispered their lies into the cracks of your soul, hoping you would shatter. They planted seeds of doubt in the fertile soil of your dreams, hoping they would never take root. They stood in the shadows, watching, waiting, praying for your downfall. But here's the truth they never wanted you to know. Ruin is not your destiny. You were never meant to break. You were never meant to stay down. You were meant to rise, not in spite of the storm, but because of it. Every betrayal, every failure, every moment of despair was not the end of your story. It was the forging of your fire. Look at you. Look at how far you've come. Look at the scars you carry, not as marks of defeat, but as proof of your resilience. They tried to ruin you, but they didn't understand one thing. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your comeback. You are the phoenix rising from the ashes, the warrior emerging from the battlefield, the dreamer who refused to let go. This is your call to rise, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Feel the weight of everything you've endured and let it fuel you. Let it remind you of your strength, your power, your unshakable will. They tried to ruin you, but they only gave you the tools to build something greater. This is your moment. This is your transformation. This is your rise, and the world will never be the same. The world is not always kind. It is not always fair. It is a relentless force, a tempest that seeks to test the limits of your resolve. It comes in many forms. Society with its suffocating expectations and unattainable standards. Doubt, that insidious voice that slithers into your mind when you're at your weakest. Fear, the shadow that looms over every dream, every risk, every step into the unknown. And betrayal, the knife that cuts deepest because it comes from the hands you trusted. These are the forces that sought to destroy you. They are the antagonists of your story, the villains who thought they could write your ending. They thought they could break you. They thought you would stay down, defeated and silent, another casualty in their war against hope. But they were wrong. Oh, how they were wrong. You see, they underestimated you. They didn't see the fire in your eyes, the steel in your spine, the unyielding determination in your heart. They didn't understand that every blow they landed only made you stronger. Every lie they told only made you wiser. Every moment they tried to crush you only made you more determined to rise. Society told you to fit in, to conform, to shrink yourself to fit their narrow mold. But you refused. You chose to stand out, to stand tall, to be unapologetically yourself. Doubt whispered that you weren't good enough, that you would never succeed, that you should just give up. But you silenced that voice with your actions, with your courage, with your refusal to back down. Fear tried to paralyze you, to keep you trapped in the safety of the familiar. But you faced it head on, stepping into the unknown with nothing but your faith in yourself. And betrayal. Oh, betrayal. It cut deep, leaving scars that still ache in the quiet moments. But even that couldn't destroy you. Instead, it taught you the value of your own strength, the importance of your own resilience. They thought they could break you. They thought you would stay down. But they were wrong. You are not broken. You are not defeated. You are a force to be reckoned with. a storm that cannot be contained, a light that cannot be extinguished. And now, it's your turn to show them just how wrong they were. It didn't happen all at once. The fall never does. It's a slow unraveling, a series of small cracks that eventually give way under the weight of everything you're carrying. For her, it began with a dream so vivid, so alive it felt like destiny. She was going to change the world. She could feel it in her bones, see it in the way the stars seemed to align whenever she dared to imagine it. But dreams, no matter how bright, are fragile things, and the world has a way of testing them. The first crack came in the form of loss. It was sudden, brutal, and utterly unfair. Someone she loved, someone who had been her anchor, her safe harbor, was gone, just like that. No warning, no goodbye, just an empty space where they used to be. The grief was a tidal wave, pulling her under, drowning her in a sea of what-ifs and if-onlys. She tried to keep going, to hold on to the dream, but it was harder now. The weight of the loss was a constant ache, a shadow that followed her everywhere. Then came the betrayal. It was someone she trusted, someone she had let into the innermost circle of her life. They had smiled at her, encouraged her, even stood by her side as she chased her dream. But behind her back, they were sharpening the knife. When it came, it was swift and merciless. They took something from her, something precious, something she had worked for, bled for, and handed it to someone else. The betrayal cut deeper than the loss because it came with a question she couldn't answer. Why? Why had they done it? Why had they chosen to hurt her? The questions haunted her, gnawing at her confidence, her trust, her sense of self. And then there were the expectations. They were everywhere, pressing down on her from all sides. Society's expectations, her family's expectations, her own expectations. They were a heavy cloak, suffocating her, making it harder and harder to breathe. She was supposed to be strong, to be perfect, to be everything to everyone. But she wasn't. She was human. And the harder she tried to meet those expectations, the more she felt like she was failing. The cracks grew wider, deeper, until one day, they gave way. It wasn't dramatic. There was no grand moment of collapse. Just a quiet, crushing realization that she couldn't do it anymore. She couldn't carry the weight of the loss, the betrayal, the expectations. She couldn't keep chasing the dream that now felt like a cruel joke. And so, she fell. Not all at once, but slowly, painfully, until she found herself standing on that bridge in the rain, staring into the abyss. But even in the depths of her despair, even as she teetered on the edge of giving up, there was a part of her that refused to let go. A part of her that remembered the dream, the fire, the belief that she was meant for something more. And that part, that tiny, stubborn spark, would eventually lead her back to the light. But first, she had to endure the fall. She had to hit rock bottom. And when she did, she would find that even in the darkest places, there is a strength that can only be forged in the fire of adversity. This is her story. This is the fall, and it is only the beginning. The lies began as whispers, so soft she almost didn't notice them. But over time, they grew louder, more insistent, until they became a constant refrain in her mind. You're not enough. You'll never succeed. You're not smart enough, strong enough, good enough. You don't belong here. You don't deserve this. They came from everywhere. From the people who claimed to care about her, from the strangers who judged her without knowing her, from the voice inside her own head that had learned to echo their words. At first, she tried to fight them. She pushed back with every ounce of strength she had, clinging to the belief that she was more than what they said. But the lies were relentless. They chipped away at her confidence, her hope, her sense of self, until she started to believe them. And once she did, they became a prison, trapping her in a cycle of self-doubt and fear. She stopped dreaming. She stopped taking risks. She stopped believing in herself. Because why bother? If the lies were true, if she really wasn't enough, then what was the point? But here's the thing about lies. They only have power if you let them. And deep down, beneath the layers of doubt and fear, there was a part of her that knew the truth. The truth that she was more than enough. The truth that she was capable of greatness. The truth that she deserved every dream she had ever dared to dream. It took time for that truth to surface. It took pain and struggle and moments of sheer desperation. But eventually it broke through, and when it did, it came with a question that changed everything. What if the lies were never true? What if the people who told her she wasn't enough were wrong? What if the voice inside her head was lying? What if she had been believing a story that was never hers to begin with? The question was a spark, igniting a fire that had been smoldering for far too long. It was a rallying cry, a call to arms, a declaration of war against the lies that had held her captive for so long. She began to challenge them one by one, tearing them down with the truth. She wasn't perfect, but she was enough. She wasn't invincible, but she was strong. She wasn't fearless, but she was brave. And she wasn't alone. There were others who had been told the same lies, who had believed them, who had let them dictate their lives, but together they could fight back. Together, they could rewrite the story. This chapter is about the lies they told you, the lies that tried to break you, the lies that almost won, but it's also about the truth that sets you free, the truth that you are enough, the truth that you are capable of more than you ever imagined, the truth that the lies were never true. And once you see that truth, once you embrace it, there's no going back. The lies lose their power. The prison doors swing open, and you step into the light, ready to claim the life you were always meant to live. This is your moment. This is your truth, and it's only the beginning. The darkness was everywhere. It seeped into her bones, filled her lungs, clouded her vision until she could barely see the path ahead. It was grief, raw and unrelenting, a constant ache that reminded her of everything she had lost. It was anger, hot and fierce, burning through her veins like a wildfire, demanding to know why this had happened to her. And it was despair, cold and heavy, pressing down on her chest until it felt like she couldn't breathe. She had tried to fight it, tried to push through, but the darkness was relentless. It whispered to her in the quiet moments when she was alone with her thoughts. Why keep going? What's the point? You've already lost so much. Why not just let go? The temptation was there, a seductive pull toward surrender. It would be so easy to give up, to stop fighting, to let the darkness swallow her whole. And for a while, she did. She let herself sink into the numbness, the emptiness, the void where nothing mattered and nothing hurt. But even in the depths of the darkness, there was a spark, a tiny, flickering light that refused to be extinguished. It was the memory of her dream, the belief that she was meant for something more. It was the love she had for the people who still believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. It was the stubborn, unyielding part of her that refused to let go, no matter how hard the darkness tried to pull her under. And then, one night, it happened. She hit rock bottom. The darkness was so thick she could barely see her own hands in front of her face. But in that moment, something shifted. She realized she had a choice. She could let the darkness consume her, or she could fight back. She could give up, or she could rise. And in that moment, she chose to rise. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but slowly, painfully, she began to claw her way out of the darkness. She faced her grief, her anger, her despair, and she refused to let them define her. She found strength in the memories of what she had lost, in the love of those who still stood by her, in the dream that had never truly died. And as she fought, she discovered something incredible. The darkness had not broken her. It had forged her. It had made her stronger, fiercer, more determined than ever before. In the darkest night, she found her fire, and once she did, there was no going back. This chapter is about the darkness before the dawn. It's about the struggle, the pain, the temptation to give up, but it's also about the moment when everything changes. The moment when you realize that the darkness is not the end, it's the beginning. It's the fire that will light your way forward, and once you find that fire, nothing can stop you. This is your turning point. This is your dawn, and it's only the beginning. It started with a single step, just one. A small, seemingly insignificant act of defiance against the forces that had tried to break her. She didn't know it then, but that step would change everything. It was a quiet rebellion, unnoticed by the world, but it was hers, and in that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Power. It wasn't the kind of power that comes from strength or success or recognition. It was the kind of power that comes from within, the kind that says, I am still here. I am still fighting, and I will not be defeated. That first spark of rebellion was different for everyone. For her, it was a decision to get out of bed one morning when every fiber of her being wanted to stay under the covers, hiding from the world. For someone else, it might be speaking up when they've always stayed silent, or taking a risk when they've always played it safe. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's yours. That first spark is a declaration of war against the darkness, against the lies, against the forces that have tried to hold you down. It's a reminder that you are not powerless, that you have a voice, that you have a choice. And once you make that choice, once you take that step, something incredible happens. The spark grows, it spreads, it ignites something deep inside you, something you thought was lost forever, and suddenly you realize that you are not just surviving, you are fighting, you are rising. This chapter is about that first spark of rebellion. It's about the moment when you decide to fight back, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem. It's about the power of a single step, a single word, a single act of defiance. Because the truth is, the smallest spark can ignite the greatest inferno. And once that fire is lit, there's no stopping it. This is your spark. This is your rebellion. And it's only the beginning. The hardest battles are the ones we fight within ourselves. They are the battles against the voices in our heads, the scars on our hearts, the shadows of our past. For her, the battle within was a war on multiple fronts. Fear was the first enemy, a constant companion that whispered doubts and worst-case scenarios into her ear. It told her she wasn't strong enough, that she would fail, that the world was too big and too cruel for someone like her. Self-doubt was next, a relentless critic that picked apart every decision, every action, every dream. It told her she wasn't smart enough, talented enough, deserving enough. And then there was the past, a heavy chain of trauma and regret that dragged her down, reminding her of every mistake, every failure, every moment she wished she could forget. But she had reached a point where she could no longer run from these demons. She had to face them, she had to fight them, and so she did. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but slowly, painfully, she began to confront the fear, the self-doubt, the past. She looked them in the eye and refused to back down. She reminded herself of the truth. You are not your pain. You are not your past. It became her mantra, her battle cry, her anchor in the storm. She repeated it to herself every time the fear threatened to overwhelm her, every time the self-doubt tried to silence her, every time the past tried to pull her back. And with each repetition, she felt a little stronger, a little braver, a little more free. This chapter is about the battle within. It's about the courage it takes to face your demons, to look them in the eye and say, you do not define me. It's about the power of a single truth. You are not your pain. You are not your past. And once you truly believe that, once you internalize it, the battle changes. The demons may not disappear, but they lose their power. And you become unstoppable. This is your battle, this is your truth, and it's only the beginning. No one rises alone. No matter how strong, how determined, how resilient you are, there are moments when you need someone to lean on, someone to believe in you when you can't believe in yourself. For her, those moments came more often than she cared to admit, but when they did, she found something incredible. She was not alone. There were people who saw her struggle, who recognized her pain, and who stepped in to help. Some were mentors, wise and experienced, who offered guidance and wisdom. They had been where she was, fought the battles she was fighting, and come out stronger on the other side. They shared their stories, their lessons, their hope, and in doing so, they gave her a roadmap for her own journey. Others were friends, loyal and steadfast, who stood by her side no matter what. They didn't have all the answers, but they had something even more important: love. They listened when she needed to talk, held her when she needed to cry, and reminded her of her strength when she forgot it. And then there were the unexpected allies, the strangers who crossed her path at just the right moment, offering a kind word, a helping hand, or a fresh perspective. They were proof that the universe had not abandoned her, that there was still goodness in the world, even in the darkest times. Together, these allies became her lifeline, her support system, her tribe. They reminded her that she was never alone in the fight, that there were people who believed in her, who cared about her, who wanted to see her succeed, and with their help, she began to rise. This chapter is about the allies you find. It's about the people who come into your life when you need them most, who lift you up when you can't lift yourself. It's about the power of connection, of community, of knowing that you are not alone. Because the truth is, no matter how hard the fight, no matter how dark the night, there are always people who will stand with you. And together you can overcome anything. This is your tribe, this is your support, and it's only the beginning. Victory is never free. It comes at a cost that is often paid in blood, sweat, and tears. For her, the cost was high. There were relationships that didn't survive the journey, friendships that faded as she grew and changed, and loved ones who couldn't understand the person she was becoming. There were moments of comfort she had to leave behind, nights of rest sacrificed for the sake of progress, and old identities she had to shed like a snake shedding its skin. It wasn't easy, it wasn't painless, but it was necessary. Because to become who she was meant to be, she had to let go of who she had been. It was a raw, emotional process, filled with moments of doubt and grief. There were times when she questioned whether it was worth it, whether the price was too high. But in the end, she realized that the cost was not a punishment. It was an investment. Every sacrifice, every loss, every moment of discomfort was a step toward the person she was meant to be. And with each step, she grew stronger, wiser, more resilient. This chapter is about the cost of victory. It's about the sacrifices you make along the way, the things you leave behind, the person you used to be. It's about the raw emotional truth that to become who you are, you must let go of who you were. And it's about the realization that the cost is not a burden, but a gift. Because every sacrifice brings you closer to your true self, to the life you were meant to live. This is your journey. This is your transformation. And it's only the beginning. The turning point came when she least expected it. It wasn't a grand, dramatic moment, but a quiet, powerful realization that she had changed. The battles she had fought, the sacrifices she had made, the lessons she had learned, they had all led her to this moment, and in that moment she knew she was unstoppable. It was a major victory, a breakthrough that proved to herself and to the world that she was more than the sum of her struggles. She had faced her fears, confronted her demons, and risen from the ashes of her past, ashes that now acted as the acetate of her future. And with ashes from the future of her past, and now she stood tall, a force to be reckoned with, a living testament to the power of resilience and determination. The people who had tried to ruin her, who had doubted her, who had written her off, they were now faced with a reality they never saw coming. She had become their nightmare, not out of vengeance, but out of strength. She had taken their lies, their doubts, their attempts to break her, and turned them into fuel for her fire. And now, the fire burned brighter than ever. This chapter is about the turning point. It's about the moment when everything changes, when you realize that you are unstoppable. It's about the triumphant declaration, they tried to ruin you, but you became their nightmare. And it's about the power of that realization, the strength it gives you, the future it opens up. Because once you know you are unstoppable, there's no limit to what you can achieve. This is your victory. This is your turning point, and it's only the beginning. Her journey was never just about her. It was about the people who watched her rise, who saw her struggles and her victories, and who found hope in her story. It was about the ones who had been broken, who had been told they weren't enough, who had been trapped in their own darkness. They saw her and thought, if she can do it, maybe I can too. And so, the fire spread. One by one, they began to rise. They faced their own fears, confronted their own demons, and took their first steps toward their own victories. They found strength in her story, courage in her example, and hope in her fire. And as they rose, they inspired others to do the same. The fire became a movement, a wave of resilience and determination that swept through the lives of everyone it touched. This chapter is about the fire spreading. It's about the power of your story to inspire others, to light the way for those who are still lost in the darkness. It's about the call to action. Your story is not just yours. It's a beacon for the broken. Because the truth is, your journey is not just, it's about the lives you touch, the hope you give, the fire you ignite. And once you realize that, there's no limit to the impact you can have. This is your legacy, this is your fire, and it's only the beginning. The transformation was not instantaneous. It was a gradual process, a series of small changes that added up to something extraordinary. She emerged from the fire stronger, wiser, and unshakable. The scars were still there, but they were no longer wounds. They were reminders of the battles she had fought and the victories she had won. The doubts were still there, but they were no longer chains. They were challenges to be met and overcome. The past was still there, but it was no longer a prison. It was a foundation, a source of strength and wisdom. She was not who they said she was. She was not the broken, defeated person they had tried to make her. She was who she had chosen to become, and that person was unstoppable. This chapter is about the new you. It's about the transformation that comes from facing your fears, confronting your demons, and rising from the ashes of your past. It's about the poetic reflection. You are not who they said you were. You are who you chose to become. And it's about the power of that realization, the strength it gives you, the future it opens up. Because once you know who you are, there's no limit to what you can achieve. This is your transformation. This is your new you, and it's only the beginning. The reckoning was not about revenge. It was about closure. It was about standing tall in the face of those who had tried to break her and showing them that they had failed. She confronted them not with anger or hatred, but with power and grace. She looked them in the eye and said, "You thought you could break me, but you only made me stronger." It was a moment of truth, a moment of clarity, a moment of triumph. They had tried to ruin her, but they had only succeeded in making her unstoppable. And now, they had to face the reality of what they had created. This chapter is about the reckoning. It's about the moment when you confront those who tried to break you, not with vengeance, but with power and grace. It's about the confrontational tone. You thought you could break me, but you only made me stronger. And it's about the power of that moment, the strength it gives you, the closure it brings. Because once you face them, once you show them that they failed, there's no going back. This is your reckoning. This is your triumph. And it's only the beginning. Her story did not end with her victory. It was just the beginning. Her journey, her struggles, her triumphs, they became a legacy, a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever been broken, doubted, or defeated. People heard her story and found the courage to face their own battles. They saw her rise and believed that they could too. Her pain, her sacrifices, her fire, they became a source of strength for others, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn always comes. And with each life she touched, her legacy grew, a ripple effect of resilience and hope that spread far beyond her own life. This chapter is about the legacy. It's about the impact your story has on the world, the lives you change, the hope you inspire. It's about the final rallying cry. Your pain was never the end. It was the beginning of everything. Because the truth is, your journey is not just about you. It's about the lives you touch, the hope you give, the legacy you leave behind. And once you realize that, there's no limit to the impact you can have. This is your legacy. This is your impact. And it's only the beginning. The fire that had been ignited within her was eternal. It was a flame that could not be extinguished, a light that would never fade. It was the fire of resilience, of transformation, of hope. And it was a fire that she carried with her, not just for herself, but for the world. She had become a symbol of what was possible, a living testament to the power of the human spirit. They had tried to ruin her, but in doing so, they had created something extraordinary. She had become their nightmare and the world's hope. This chapter is about the eternal flame. It's about the enduring power of resilience and transformation, the light that never fades, the fire that never dies. It's about the final message. They tried to ruin you, but you became their nightmare and the world's hope. And it's about the power of that realization, the strength it gives you, the future it opens up. Because once you know that your fire is eternal, there's no limit to what you can achieve. This is your flame. This is your hope. And it's only the beginning. Years have passed since her rise, but the echoes of her journey continue to reverberate across time and space. Her story, once a personal battle, has become a universal anthem of resilience. In schools, her words are taught as lessons in courage. In communities, her actions inspire movements of change. In the hearts of individuals, her fire ignites their own. A young girl reads her story and decides to pursue her dreams despite the odds. A man on the brink of giving up finds hope in her words and chooses to fight another day. A mother shares her journey with her children, teaching them that no matter how hard life gets, they can rise. The nightmare they feared, her unyielding strength, her refusal to be broken, has become the dream the world needed. Her legacy is not just in what she achieved, but in the countless lives she continues to touch. The ripple effect of her journey is endless, a testament to the power of one person's refusal to give up. And as the world continues to change, her story remains a beacon, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always hope. To you, the one holding these words, this is your moment. Your story is not over. It's just beginning. Whatever battles you're fighting, whatever darkness you're facing, know this. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think, braver than you feel, and more capable than you've ever imagined. The journey won't be easy. There will be moments when you want to give up, when the weight of it all feels too heavy to bear. But in those moments, remember her story. Remember the fire that refused to die, the spark that became an inferno, the nightmare that became a dream. You have that same fire within you. You have that same power. And your story, no matter how broken it feels right now, has the potential to inspire, to transform, to change the world. So rise, fight, believe. Your pain is not the end, it's the beginning of everything. Your story is not over, it's just beginning, and the world is waiting for you to shine.